From the ethereal realm between soy sauce and star anise, I watch my granddaughter massacre my prized dumpling recipe while completely missing the hidden compartment in my cookbook. "Aya, child, you're folding them like wonky purses." I float closer to the kitchen counter, my translucent form shimmering with indignation. "And why are you using a measuring cup for the ginger? Use your heart. Also, you're supposed to press the golden dragon embossed on the cover 3 times first." Of course, Lily can't hear me. She's too busy squinting at my cookbook, like it's written in ancient hieroglyphs instead of my perfectly legible, if deliberately cryptic, handwriting. The poor child has no idea she's holding the most dangerous cookbook in Chinatown, or that her apartment has been under surveillance for 3 months. What does "when the moon weeps over the Wong family's dishonor, add extra soy sauce" even mean, Nai? She mutters, flour dusting her cheek like war paint. And why is there a phone number written in invisible ink next to the pork bun recipe? Did you seriously expect me to have a UV light just lying around? But she did find the UV light in my kitchen drawer, the clever girl. And she discovered that page, the one that could start another food war if it fell into the wrong hands. You see, when I was alive, it wasn't just entrepreneurial. I was the shadow empress of Chinatown's underground food network, the unofficial queen of what the authorities never suspected was the most sophisticated intelligence operation disguised as grandmotherly cooking. That phone number belonged to Mrs. Chen, who paid me handsomely to accidentally serve her husband's favorite dishes to her bridge club. What she didn't know was that I was simultaneously catering her husband's illegal mahjong nights, selling her bridge club gossip back to her husband's gambling rivals, and feeding information to 3 different restaurant syndicates about their supply chain vulnerabilities. 3-way profits, darling. It's all about market efficiency and maximizing chaos. And what's this coded message? Lily holds the page up to the light, revealing more hidden text that makes my ghostly heart swell with pride. The Dragon's Breath Society meets when the restaurant's closed. The grandmother knows all. Trust no one under 40. Nai, were you in a secret society? And why is there a hand-drawn map to something called the Sacred Walk of Ultimate Power? I drift closer, cackling with delight. Finally, my precious granddaughter is showing the family intelligence that skipped her useless parents entirely. The Dragon's Breath Society was my masterpiece, a network of grandmother spies who controlled every major food establishment from Vancouver to San Diego. We had our wrinkled fingers in everything: restaurant politics, produce monopolies, immigration documentation, marriage arrangements, and the most sophisticated gossip network this side of the Pacific. But the Sacred Walk? That's level 10 classified information. Even I don't joke about the Sacred Walk. P. Phase 3, Operation Fortune Cookie. Messages contain stock tips, blackmail material, next week's winning lottery numbers, and emergency evacuation routes. She continues reading, her voice getting higher with each revelation. Warning, if Tommy Chen asks about Aunt Mei Lin's death, stick to the official story. The truth involves ancient curses and is above your security clearance. Oh my god, Nai was running an intelligence operation through fortune cookies, and there's a family curse. It wasn't a curse, I protest to the air, though she can't hear me yet. It was a very unfortunate series of coincidences involving bad feng shui, a cursed recipe, and Mei Lin's terrible judgment in men. The Yakuza boss was just the final straw. She flips frantically through more pages, her face cycling through confusion, horror, and what I hope might be grudging admiration. Emergency Protocol 7. If discovered, fake stroke and blame everything on evil twin sister. If evil twin story fails, activate Ghost Pepper Protocol and run. Evil twin sister? And what's the Ghost Pepper Protocol? And had an evil twin, I correct sadly. Mei Lin died in what the newspapers called a mahjong accident in Macau, but was actually an elaborate revenge plot involving poisoned dim sum, a rigged tile set, and her ex-boyfriend who turned out to be working for the Triad Noodle Syndicate. Very complicated, very dramatic. I still have the surveillance footage if you want to see it. She stares at the book, then slowly looks around the kitchen with new eyes. There are more hidden things here, aren't there? This whole kitchen is like a spy headquarters, disguised as a normal grandmother's kitchen, and I've been living here for 6 months, without realizing I'm basically in the Batcave. Smart girl, the family intelligence definitely didn't skip her. I watch with anticipation as she starts examining everything properly. The rice cooker that's actually a safe containing cash in 7 different currencies. The spice rack with the false back hiding USB drives full of decades of blackmail material. The wok that, when lifted, reveals a hidden panel in the stove containing my emergency supplies. Cash, 17 different fake passports, a collection of untraceable cell phones, and what appears to be a small but efficient poison laboratory. Holies, she breathes, finding the passport stash and holding up my personal favorite. Li Wei Ming, age 34, occupation international dumpling consultant. Nai, you had 17 identities, and one of them claims you're younger than me. 18 identities, I correct proudly. You missed the one taped under the cutting board. That's my emergency FBI infiltration cover, and age is just a number, darling. A very flexible number when you know the right forger. But then the kitchen phone rings, the old rotary phone that shouldn't work because the line was supposedly disconnected when I died. And she freezes like a deer in headlights. Nobody has this number, she whispers. Nobody even knows this phone exists. The phone keeps ringing with the ominous persistence of bad news and government agencies. Against every survival instinct she should have inherited from me, Lily picks up the phone. Hello? She says tentatively. Dragon's Breath Society emergency protocol activated, announces a voice that sounds suspiciously like Mrs. Park from the corner grocery. Jade Phoenix, this is Golden Dumpling. The cookbook has been activated. Confirm your status. Lily looks at the phone like it's grown tentacles. What? Who is this? How did you get this number? Incorrect response. Initiating security questions. What is the secret ingredient in Grandmother Lee's revenge soup? Spite? Close enough. What happened to Uncle Robert in the Great Noodle Incident of 1987? He fake died. Acceptable. Final question. If approached by Tommy Chen, what is the appropriate response? I throw dumplings first and ask questions later. Excellent. Welcome to the Dragon's Breath Society, Jade Phoenix. This is your official activation call. The network has been waiting for you to discover the cookbook. We have much to discuss. I materialize, fully behind Lily, making every light in the kitchen flicker dramatically. Tell Mrs. Park I said hello and that her bok choy prices are still too high. Lily spins around and drops the phone. Nai, you're actually? Yes, I'm dead. Very shocking. We've established this. I float around her frantically while Mrs. Park's voice squawks from the dangling phone. But listen carefully, child. That cookbook isn't just recipes. It's the activation key to a 50-year empire built on noodles, knowledge, and necessary revenge. And every grandmother spy from here to Hong Kong has been waiting for you to inherit it. She picks up the phone with shaking hands. Mrs. Park? My grandmother just appeared as a ghost? Of course she did, dear. We've been expecting that. Grandmother Lee was always too stubborn to stay properly dead. Now listen carefully. You need to come to the emergency meeting tonight. The dumpling war is about to restart, and you're the only one with the complete cookbook. Wait, what war? The dumpling war of 1987 never really ended, darling, I explain, settling into a more solid form. It just went underground and got more creative. Do you remember your Uncle Robert? The one who died in a car accident when I was 5? Fake death number 37 in the family records. He's actually running a noodle cartel in Vancouver under the name Roberto Chang, and he's been trying to get his hands on this cookbook for decades. He thinks it belongs to him because he helped me develop the poison dumpling recipe. Poison dumplings? Only mildly poisonous, I protest. Just enough to cause digestive distress and temporary amnesia. Very useful for dealing with difficult customers and nosy health inspectors. Mrs. Park's voice crackles through the phone. Jade Phoenix, the situation is more serious than your grandmother's letting on. Tommy Chen isn't the only one after the cookbook. The Seoul Syndicate has put a bounty on it. The Vancouver vegetable mafia wants to use it to corner the bok choy market. And there are rumors that the ghost of Chinatown past is involved. Wait, there are other ghosts? Lily looks around the kitchen frantically. Just me and my sister, Maylin, I assure her. Though Maylin is more of a vengeful spirit than a helpful grandmother ghost, She's still upset about the whole accidentally getting her killed in a mahjong tournament situation. You got her killed? It was very complicated. She was double-crossing the Triad Noodle Syndicate while secretly working for the Dumpling Liberation Front. And she was having an affair with a Yakuza boss who turned out to be an undercover health inspector. I tried to warn her, but she was always too proud to listen to her older, wiser, significantly more alive sister. The lights suddenly flicker in a different pattern. Not my warm, grandmothery flickering, but cold and ominous. Mei-Lin, I hiss, my form becoming more solid and battle-ready. I should have known she'd show up eventually. A new voice echoes through the kitchen, colder than leftover rice and twice as bitter. Sister, still meddling in the affairs of the living, I see. Another ghostly figure materializes, identical to Ni, but wearing a devastatingly elegant kipao and an expression that could curdle milk. Mei-Lin always did have a flair for the dramatic. Mei-Lin, I nod coldly. Still holding grudges from beyond the grave, I see. Very mature. Very productive use of your afterlife. You got me killed, Wei Ming. Killed over a rigged mahjong game and a recipe for dandan noodles. It was not just dandan noodles. It was the secret to the perfect sauce, which would have revolutionized Sichuan cuisine forever. And I told you not to trust that Yakuza boss. He had undercover health inspector written all over his obviously fake Yakuza tattoos. Lily looks back and forth between us like she's watching a ghostly tennis match. Could we maybe focus on the current crisis? Mrs. Parker, you still there? Still here, dear, and I can sense both grandmother spirits. This complicates things. How? Because, Mei-Lin announces dramatically, I've been working with Tommy Chen. The cookbook should have been mine originally. I contributed half the recipes and all the best revenge plots. Your grandmother stole my life work and then got me murdered for it. I didn't steal anything. We were partners, and I didn't get you murdered. You got yourself murdered by being dramatic and trusting the wrong people. Enough, Lily shouts, and both ghostly sisters stop arguing. Mrs. Park, what exactly is happening tonight at this meeting? The Dragon's Breath Society is holding an emergency session to decide what to do about the cookbook. Every major player in the Asian American food underground will be there. Some friendly, some neutral, most of them wanting to use the cookbook for their own purposes. And now that Mei-Lin has allied herself with Tommy Chen, the stakes just got significantly higher. I finish grimly. Mei-Lin knows all my secrets, all my recipes, and all my weaknesses. Plus, she's bitter, vengeful, and has nothing to lose because she's already dead. Whereas you're just bitter and vengeful, but still have something to lose. Your precious granddaughter. Mei-Lin smiles coldly. The kitchen suddenly feels much colder. 30 minutes later, we're standing outside Golden Dragon Restaurant after closing hours, where the most surreal gathering of my life is about to unfold. Mrs. Park, who I now realize is built like a small but efficient tank, greets us at the door, wearing what appears to be combat boots under her traditional dress. Jade Phoenix, welcome to your first Dragon's Breath Society meeting. I should warn you, it's going to be unusual, even by our standards. Please tell me it gets less weird than having two dead grandmothers argue about murdered Yakuza bosses, Lily pleads. Oh, honey, Mrs. Park chuckles, this is just the beginning. She leads us into the restaurant's back room, where I count at least 20 people ranging from teenagers to great-grandmothers, all wearing identical serious expressions and name tags with code names like Iron Chopstick, Deadly Dim Sum, and the Phantom of the Peking Duck. Everyone, Mrs. Park announces, meet Jade Phoenix, inheritor of the cookbook and granddaughter of the legendary Ghost Pepper. Ghost Pepper was my code name, I explained to Lily with pride. Very feared in the underground food scene. Still is, adds a teenage boy who looks familiar. I'm Spring Roll, your cousin Jimmy. I've been running the fortune cookie operation since I was 6. Business is booming. Jimmy, you're 8 years old. I'm very entrepreneurial, he says seriously, then grins. Also, Auntie Susan wants to know if you're interested in taking over the food truck territory wars. She says the Portland division needs new management, and the Seattle branch is practically running itself. Auntie Susan is supposed to be dead. Only in Oregon and British Columbia, explains a woman who looks exactly like Auntie Susan but with completely different hair. In Washington State, I'm technically Sandra Chen, small business owner and community organizer. In California, I'm Sue Lin, food truck mogul and part-time marriage counselor. I float closer to Lily and whisper, the family business is more extensive than I may have initially implied. He's not just after the cookbook for personal revenge. He wants to use it to establish a monopoly on Asian food distribution throughout the Pacific Northwest, which would be bad for business, adds Ian Chopstick, who turns out to be Mrs. Liu from the dry cleaner, and bad for the community. Tommy Chen has no vision beyond profit, no sense of tradition or responsibility to the neighborhood. Whereas we, gestures Mrs. Park to the assembled group, represent the true spirit of community-based food service with moderate amounts of profitable espionage and justified revenge. Moderate amounts? Lily squeaks. Very moderate, I assure her. We never hurt anyone who didn't deserve it, and we always use locally sourced ingredients for our revenge dishes. Suddenly, the lights flicker, in Maylin's particular pattern, and my sister's voice echoes through the room. Tell them about the curse, Wei Ming. The entire room goes silent. What curse? Lily asks slowly. There's no curse, I protest. Just a minor supernatural inconvenience that may or may not be attached to the cookbook. What curse? Everyone shouts simultaneously. I sigh dramatically. Fine. Allegedly, there's an ancient family curse that says whoever possesses the complete cookbook will face 7 trials before they can claim its power. But that's just a legend, a myth, a story to keep unworthy people from stealing family recipes. What are the 7 trials? Mrs. Park asks, with the tone of someone who's dealt with supernatural nonsense before. Well, theoretically, they would be the trial of the burning tongue, the trial of the impossible recipe, the trial of the vengeful customer, the trial of the fake death, the trial of the family secret, the trial of the ultimate sacrifice, and the trial of the sacred walk. And what happens if someone fails? Hypothetically, they lose their sense of taste forever and become cursed to make terrible food for the rest of their life. The room considers this. That's actually not that bad, says Spring Roll thoughtfully. I mean, compared to actual death. Oh, they also become haunted by every person they've ever disappointed with their cooking, I add casually. That's worse. Which is why, Maylin's voice announces triumphantly, I've been working with Tommy Chen to ensure the trials are as difficult as possible. If little Lily fails, the cookbook's power will transfer to someone more deserving. Like Tommy Chen? Lily asks. Like me, Maylin responds. Even in death, I'm still the better cook. The room erupts in chaos as various grandmother spies begin arguing about curse logistics, trial fairness, and whether Maylin can legally compete for cookbook ownership while technically dead. Mrs. Park bangs a wok against the table for order. Enough! The immediate question is, are you willing to face the trials, Jade Phoenix? Lily looks around the room at 20 expectant faces, then at me floating anxiously beside her, then at the cookbook tucked under her arm like a culinary nuclear bomb. What exactly happens if I say no? Tommy Chen gets the cookbook by default. Maywin probably finds a way to possess your body. The neighborhood food economy collapses. And you spend the rest of your life knowing you could have been the secret empress of the most delicious spy network in North America. I explain helpfully. And if I say yes, you face 7 increasingly ridiculous supernatural cooking challenges, possibly die, or lose your sense of taste forever. But if you succeed, you inherit an empire built on the perfect balance of excellent food and justified revenge. She considers this for a long moment. Do I get to keep the spy kitchen? Of course. And the 17 fake identities? 18. I made you one while we were talking. She grins, the same wicked smile that built this entire empire. Then let's do this. But I have conditions. Name them. First, someone needs to explain everything. No more mysterious hints and cryptic cookbook entries. Second, if I'm going to be a grandmother spy, I want the full training, not just the cooking parts. And third, when this is over, we're having a serious family meeting about the fake death count because 14 active ones seems excessive. 15 now, Spring Roll pipes up. I had to fake Uncle Kevin's death in Malaysia yesterday. Tax reasons. 15? The family business is very complicated, I say proudly. But you're handling it better than I expected. Your mother would have fainted by now. Where is my mother in all this? The room goes suspiciously quiet. About that. Auntie Susan begins. Your mother, Auntie Susan says carefully, is currently the regional manager for our Seattle operations under the identity Michelle Chen. She's been running the dim sum protection racket and the wedding catering intelligence network for the past 5 years. Lily sits down heavily in the nearest chair. My mother. My mother who told me Nai was just an eccentric grandmother who liked to cook. My mother is a regional manager for a grandmother's spy network. A very successful regional manager, I add proudly. She's increased profits by 40% and successfully infiltrated 3 rival food operations. Does anyone in my family have a normal job? Your cousin Danny is a regular accountant. Springroll offers helpfully. Thank God. For the money laundering division. I hate this family. No, you don't. I float over and pat her shoulder with ghostly comfort. You hate that nobody told you how awesome this family is. There's a difference. Mrs. Park clears her throat. As touching as this family bonding is, we have a problem. Tommy Chen just pulled up outside with what appears to be a significant number of associates and several industrial-sized containers of what I assume are not friendship dumplings. Everyone rushes to the windows, and sure enough, there's Tommy Chen, a man who looks like he ironed his business suits and floss his teeth with titanium wire, standing next to 3 black cars and gesturing aggressively at the restaurant. Iron Chopstick observes, he brought backup. So did we, Mrs. Park replies, and suddenly I notice that half the elderly people in the room are casually armed with weaponized kitchen utensils. Is that a sharpened cleaver? Lily asks, pointing at Mrs. Liu's handbag. Multi-purpose tool, Mrs. Liu explains. It's for vegetables and enemies of the Dragon's Breath Society. Tommy Chen approaches the door and knocks with the kind of aggressive politeness that means someone's about to have a very bad day. Perhaps, suggests Mei Lin's voice with obvious amusement, this would be a good time to begin the trials. After all, the trial of the vengeful customer seems to have arrived early. That's not how the trials work, I protest. According to the original curse document, which I helped write, the trials begin when the cookbook is threatened by outside forces. Tommy Chen definitely qualifies. The knocking gets more insistent. Dragon's Breath Society, Tommy calls through the door. I know you're in there. I want to speak with the inheritor of Li Wei Ming's cookbook. How does he even know I have it? Lily whispers. Surveillance, I explain grimly. Tommy's been watching your apartment for months, waiting for you to activate the cookbook. The moment you pressed the golden dragon embossing and revealed the hidden compartments, every spy network in the city got an alert. You mean the cookbook is bugged? Not bugged, Mrs. Park corrects. Enchanted. There's a difference, probably. The door suddenly blows open, not violently, but with the dramatic flair of someone who's paid good money for special effects, and Tommy Chen strides in wearing a perfectly tailored suit and an expression of smug confidence. He's followed by 6 people in matching dark clothing who look like they take their fashion cues from generic action movies, and bringing up the rear is a tiny elderly woman in a wheelchair who radiates the kind of quiet menace that makes experienced spies nervous. Ah, Mrs. Park, Tommy says with false pleasantness, and the famous Dragon's Breath Society? How quaint. Still playing spy games with recipes and fortune cookies, I see. Tommy Chen, Mrs. Park replies coolly. Still compensating for your complete lack of cooking talent with expensive suits and hired muscle, I see. I'm here for the cookbook, he announces, looking directly at Lily. The one that rightfully belongs to my family. Li Wei Ming stole half those recipes from my grandmother, and I intend to reclaim them. Your grandmother? I hiss, materializing just enough for Tommy to sense my presence. Was a terrible cook and a worse person. She tried to poison me 3 times over a disputed noodle recipe. Tommy shivers slightly. He can't see me, but he can definitely feel the supernatural chill of my indignation. I offer a trade, he continues, pulling out an ornate wooden box. The cookbook for this, the original recipe for the sacred dumpling of ultimate flavor, stolen from my family's archives 50 years ago. The room goes dead silent, Even I stop floating to stare at the box. That's impossible, Mrs. Park whispers. The sacred dumpling recipe was destroyed in the Great Kitchen Fire of 1975. A convenient lie, Tommy smiles coldly. My family has guarded the real recipe for generations. With it and the cookbook combined, whoever controls them would have enough culinary power to dominate every Asian restaurant from here to Beijing. The tiny elderly woman in the wheelchair speaks for the first time, her voice carrying the authority of someone who's survived multiple food wars. The girl will face the trial. If she succeeds, the recipe remains hidden. If she fails, both the cookbook and the sacred dumpling recipe will belong to whoever proves worthy. And you are? Lily asks. Grandmother Chen, I whisper in horror. Tommy's great-grandmother. She's supposed to be dead. Fake death number. I've lost count. Grandmother Chen cackles. I've been waiting 40 years for a chance to reclaim what's rightfully ours, child. The cookbook and the sacred dumpling recipe will restore my family's honor. What exactly is the sacred dumpling recipe? Lily asks. Legend says it's a dumpling so perfect, so delicious, that whoever tastes it will do anything the cook asks, Mrs. Park explains grimly. It's basically mind control through dumplings. That's ridiculous. Is it? Tommy challenges. Your grandmother built an empire on the power of her cooking. What do you think would happen if someone had a recipe that could make their food literally irresistible? Lily looks around the room, at the worried faces of the Dragon's Breath Society, at me floating anxiously beside her, at the cookbook tucked under her arm that apparently contains enough culinary power to start wars. Fine, she says firmly. I accept the trial, but I want witnesses, official rules, and a guarantee that when I win, Tommy Chen leaves my family alone forever. When you win, Tommy laughs. Child, do you even know what the trial of the vengeful customer involves? Enlighten me. Grandmother Chen wheels forward, her eyes glinting with malicious anticipation. You must prepare a meal that satisfies the most difficult, unreasonable, and hostile customer imaginable. Someone who will complain about everything, demand impossible modifications, and judge your food by standards no human could possibly meet. And the customer will be me, she announces with a smile that could freeze soup. I haven't been satisfied by anyone's cooking in 60 years, and I intend to keep that record intact. You have 1 hour to prepare a full meal that meets my approval, using only the ingredients available in this kitchen, while I critique every choice you make. Lily looks at me desperately. Any advice? Cook with your heart, I say, then pause. Also, Grandmother Chen is allergic to shellfish, hates cilantro, and has weak teeth, so nothing too crunchy. But don't let her know I told you that. I heard that, Wei Ming, Grandmother Chen calls out, despite being unable to see me. The girl gets no help from dead relatives. Then it's a good thing I'm not helping. I reply innocently. I'm just... providing moral support. Lily takes a deep breath, ties on an apron that Mrs. Park produces from somewhere, and cracks her knuckles. Let's cook. What follows is the most stressful hour of cooking I've witnessed in 60 years of culinary espionage. Lily starts by examining the available ingredients. Standard restaurant supplies plus whatever Tommy's people brought, which appears to include some suspiciously high-quality items that suggest this trial was planned in advance. Smart girl, I murmur as she begins prep work. She's thinking strategically. Too much salt, Grandmother Chen shouts before Lily has even added any salt. I can tell by the way you're holding the container that you're going to oversalt everything. I haven't added any salt yet, Lily points out calmly. Preemptive criticism. It saves time. Lily continues working, systematically preparing what appears to be a multi-course meal. Soup, dumplings, a main dish, and something that looks like it might be dessert. Those vegetables are cut wrong, Grandmother Chen announces. Too big, too small, too uniform, not uniform enough. They literally cannot be both too uniform and not uniform enough. Lily responds while continuing to chop with impressive knife skills that I definitely didn't teach her. Don't talk back to me, girl. In my day, granddaughters showed proper respect. In your day, you tried to poison my grandmother 3 times over noodles. Those were love taps. If I'd really wanted to poison her, she'd have stayed dead. I'm floating back and forth anxiously, wanting to help, but bound by the trial rules. Around us, the Dragon's Breath Society watches in tense silence, while Tommy Chen's associates look increasingly confident as Grandmother Chen's complaints escalate. The oil is too hot. Now it's too cold. Why are you using that wok? This spoon is clearly wrong for that sauce. I can smell the failure from here. But Lily just keeps cooking, methodically and calmly, ignoring the stream of criticism. She's definitely inherited the family ability to work under pressure. 5 minutes left, Mrs. Park announces. Lily plates her dishes with the kind of precise presentation that would make a 5-star restaurant jealous. A delicate soup garnished with precisely cut scallions. Dumplings folded into perfect shapes. I'm not sure I could manage myself. A main dish that looks like art, and what appears to be a flawless egg custard tart for dessert. Time, calls Mrs. Park. Lily steps back, slightly sweaty, but triumphant. Grandmother Chen, your meal is ready. This better not be another disappointing disaster, Grandmother Chen mutters, wheeling up to examine the plates. I suppose I'll have to force myself to taste this mediocre. She takes one sip of the soup and stops talking. The room holds its breath. She tries a dumpling. Her eyes widen slightly. She tastes the main dish, and her poker face cracks just a little. Finally, she takes a bite of the egg custard tart, and for a moment, her expression becomes almost peaceful. Well, Tommy demands, is it satisfactory? Grandmother Chen sits in silence for a long moment, then looks directly at Lily with something that might be respect. It's adequate. Adequate, Tommy explodes. That's it? She fails? On the contrary, Grandmother Chen says firmly. For me, adequate is the highest praise possible. I haven't called anyone's cooking adequate in 40 years. The girl passes the first trial. Tommy's jaw drops. But you complained about everything. Of course I complained. That was the trial. But she didn't let my complaints affect her cooking. She adapted to my preferences without abandoning her own style, and most importantly, she showed proper respect for her elders while still standing up for herself. Grandmother Chen looks at me, somehow sensing my presence. Your granddaughter has potential, Wei Ming. Thank you, I say, though she can't hear me. However, she continues, the remaining trials will be significantly more difficult. And Tommy, despite his family's questionable methods, deserves a chance to prove his worthiness. What do you mean? Lily asks suspiciously. The trials aren't just for you, child. Anyone can attempt them. If Tommy Chen thinks he deserves the cookbook, he can face the same challenges. Tommy straightens his tie confidently. Fine, I accept. How difficult can cooking trials be? Every member of the Dragon's Breath Society exchanges glances that suggest Tommy has made a terrible mistake. Very well, Grandmother Chen announces. The second trial will begin tomorrow at dawn, the trial of the impossible recipe. Each candidate must successfully prepare a dish that, according to legend, cannot be made by mortal hands. What dish? Lily asks. The eternal dumpling, I whisper in horror. She means the eternal dumpling. The eternal dumpling, Grandmother Chen confirms. A dumpling so perfect it never stops being delicious. No matter how long it sits, how cold it gets, or how many times it's reheated. The recipe was lost 50 years ago when the only cook who knew it disappeared under mysterious circumstances. What happened to him? Tommy asks. He became immortal and now runs a food truck in Portland under the name Mysterious Mike's Mystical Meals. Spring Roll pipes up helpfully. He's actually Auntie Susan's ex-husband, but we're not supposed to talk about that. Of course he is, Lily mutters. Anyone in this story who isn't secretly related to us or faking their own death? The health inspector, Mrs. Park offers. He's genuinely just a health inspector. Very boring life. Thank God for small miracles. As Tommy and his associates leave to prepare for tomorrow's trial, I float closer to Lily. You did well today, granddaughter. But the eternal dumpling? That's going to require more than just cooking skill. What do you mean? The recipe isn't lost, I admit. I know where it is. But getting it will require breaking into the most secure location in all of Chinatown. Which is? Your great-aunt Lily's apartment. She's had it hidden in her freezer for 40 years, and she's protected it with more security systems than the Federal Reserve. Great-aunt Lily? I have a great-aunt Lily. You're named after her. She's also technically dead in 3 states and wanted by the FDA for running an unlicensed dumpling laboratory. But she makes excellent tea and gives the best hugs in the family. The next morning arrives with the subtlety of a fire alarm, mainly because there's an actual fire alarm going off in the apartment above us. That's not an accident, I announce, floating near the ceiling to get a better view out the window. Tommy Chen's people are creating a distraction. They're planning to break into Great Aunt Lily's apartment while everyone's focused on the fire. How do you know? Because that's exactly what I would do. Also, I can see them rappelling down from the roof like discount ninjas. Very poor form. Their rope work is all wrong. Lily peers out the window at the absurd sight of grown men in business suits attempting to scale the side of a building with clearly inadequate climbing experience. Should we warn Great Aunt Lily? Child, your Great Aunt Lily survived the dim sum wars of the 1960s, single-handedly destroyed a Yakuza protection racket, and once made a health inspector cry just by serving him perfectly legal soup. I think she can handle a few incompetent burglars. As if summoned by our conversation, my phone, the supposedly disconnected rotary phone, rings again. Lily picks it up cautiously. Hello? Jade Phoenix, this is Silver Dragon, announces a voice that sounds like it gargles with gravel and wisdom in equal measure. I have Tommy Chen's idiots hanging from my fire escape like confused bats. Shall I activate the defensive measures? Great Aunt Lily? Of course it's me. Who else would be calling at dawn about home invasion attempts? Now, do you want them captured, humiliated, or just mildly traumatized? What are the defensive measures? Automated dumpling launcher, slippery noodle trap floors, and a sound system that plays my greatest hits from the 1960s at volumes that violate several international treaties. I float closer to the phone. Tell her I said to use setting number 4, maximum humiliation with minimal permanent damage. Nine Eye says to use setting number 4. Excellent choice. Prepare for entertainment. Through the window, we watch as Great Aunt Lily's apartment suddenly becomes the most ridiculous battleground in the history of urban espionage. Streams of dumplings begin launching from hidden windows, hitting Tommy's associates with the precision of a grandmother who's had decades to perfect her aim. The men trying to climb down from the roof suddenly find themselves sliding helplessly on what appears to be an avalanche of slippery noodles pouring from concealed chutes. And then the music starts. Is that Great Aunt Lily singing? Lily asks, as a voice that could shatter windows begins belting out what sounds like a traditional Chinese opera crossed with 1960s rock and roll. She was quite famous back in the day. I explain proudly. Before she went into the dumpling business, she was the underground queen of Chinatown nightclub entertainment. Very dramatic, very loud, very effective at clearing rooms when necessary. Tommy's associates are now fleeing in panic, covering their ears and abandoning their ropes in favor of simply jumping down to the lower fire escapes and running away. Problem solved, Great Aunt Lily announces through the phone. Now, about this eternal dumpling situation. You know about the trial? Child, I helped invent the trials. Your grandmother and I designed them to be impossible for anyone without true family commitment and superior cooking instincts. So, you'll help us get the recipe? I'll do better than that. I'll teach you to make the eternal dumpling, but first, you need to pass my personal test. Another test? Every recipe in this family comes with conditions. The eternal dumpling requires perfect balance of 5 elements: earth, water, fire, metal, and wood. Most people think that means ingredients. They're wrong. What does it mean? It means patience, wisdom, passion, precision, and flexibility. And to prove you have these qualities, you must first help me with a small problem. I float closer, suddenly suspicious. What kind of problem? Nothing major. I just need someone to help me fake my death again. The FBI finally tracked down my dumpling laboratory, and I need to disappear for a while. Great Aunt Lily, Lily exclaims. You can't keep faking your death every time you have legal troubles. Watch me. I've done it 17 times, and I've gotten very good at it. Plus, this time I have a foolproof plan involving a fake cooking accident and a dramatic explosion. Absolutely not, I say firmly, though she can't hear me. Tell her I said absolutely not. We're not helping her fake another death just to avoid the FDA. Nine Eye says absolutely not. Your grandmother always was too cautious. Fine. Alternative plan. We stage a dramatic confrontation where I heroically sacrifice myself to save the eternal dumpling recipe from Tommy Chen. Then I disappear in a cloud of flour and mysterious music. That's actually not terrible, I admit grudgingly. But won't people expect to find a body? Details. I'll work something out. Maybe a scarecrow dressed in my clothes. Very authentic. Very dramatic. Lily looks at me desperately. Is this what family meetings are always like? Usually there's more arguing and someone threatens to disown someone else. But yes, this is fairly typical. Enough planning, Great Aunt Lily announces. Come up to my apartment. We have work to do, and Tommy Chen will be back with better equipment and worse attitudes. 30 minutes later, we're standing in what can only be described as the most fortified apartment in the history of urban warfare, disguised as a cozy grandmother's home. Every surface is covered with what appears to be either cooking equipment or sophisticated security devices, and I honestly can't tell which is which. Is that wok a satellite dish? Lily asks, pointing at an enormous cooking vessel mounted near the window. Dual purpose, Great Aunt Lily explains, appearing in person for the first time. She's exactly 4 feet 11 inches of concentrated determination, wearing a floral apron over what appears to be tactical gear. Excellent for stir-frying and intercepting enemy communications. Of course it is. Now, about the eternal dumpling, the secret isn't in the ingredients, it's in the intention. Each dumpling must be made with perfect love, perfect patience, and perfect understanding of why food matters. She leads us to a kitchen that makes mine look like a toy. Every possible cooking implement hangs from the walls, organized with military precision. The stove has more burners than a commercial restaurant, and there are at least 3 different types of steamers I don't recognize. First lesson, she continues, pulling out ingredients with the efficiency of someone who's perfected this process over decades. The dough must be made while thinking about everyone you've ever cooked for. Not just the people you like, everyone. The annoying customers, the ungrateful relatives, the critics who don't understand that cooking is love made edible. That seems like a lot of people to think about while making dough, Lily observes. That's why the eternal dumpling is legendary. It contains the accumulated love and frustration of every meal a cook has ever made. She begins demonstrating the dough technique, her hands moving with the kind of automatic precision that comes from decades of practice. The filling is even more complicated. It must contain something sweet for joy, something salty for tears, something bitter for disappointment, something sour for surprise, and something umami for the deep satisfaction of feeding people well. And that creates an eternal dumpling. How? Because when you combine all the fundamental experiences of cooking and eating, you create food that transcends time. It doesn't get cold because it contains the warmth of every happy meal. It doesn't get stale because it holds the excitement of every first taste. It doesn't get boring because it carries the complexity of every emotion food has ever inspired. I float closer, watching Lily absorb this information with the kind of focus she used to apply to her college exams. It's not magic, she says slowly. It's emotional chemistry. Now you're understanding. The eternal dumpling isn't supernatural. It's just the most perfect expression of why we cook in the first place. To feed people, to connect with people, to show love, to create moments of joy in a world that's often difficult and disappointing. Great Aunt Lily hands her a ball of dough that seems to glow slightly in the morning light. Now make me an eternal dumpling. But remember, if you're doing it right, it will contain a piece of your soul. No pressure or anything, Lily mutters, but she begins working with the kind of careful attention that makes me proud. As she rolls and shapes and fills the dough, I watch her face change. She's not just following instructions. She's thinking about every meal she's ever shared, every person she's ever cooked for, every moment when food has meant more than just nutrition. Good, I whisper, though she can't hear me. She's understanding. The dumpling she creates is small and perfect, gleaming with the kind of inner light that suggests she's gotten the recipe exactly right. Great Aunt Lily examines it with the critical eye of someone who's seen 10,000 dumplings and found most of them wanting. Finally, she nods approvingly. Excellent work. Now we steam it, and if you've done everything correctly, it will emerge as the first eternal dumpling created in 50 years. And if I did something wrong, then it will taste like regular dumpling, which is still pretty good, but not legendary. As we wait for the dumpling to steam, The phone rings again. Not the rotary phone this time, but a sleek, modern cell phone that Great Aunt Lily produces from what appears to be a hidden pocket in her apron. Hello? Yes, this is Silver Dragon. What? He's doing what? She listens for a moment, her expression darkening. That arrogant fool. He's trying to make his eternal dumpling using modern shortcuts and artificial ingredients. Doesn't he understand? That's like trying to create love with a chemistry set. Tommy Chen? Lily asks. He's hired a team of food scientists and is attempting to reverse engineer the eternal dumpling, using molecular gastronomy and what appears to be a disturbing amount of chemicals. Will that work? It will create something that looks like an eternal dumpling and might even taste acceptable, but it won't have the soul that makes the recipe truly eternal. The steamer timer goes off with a gentle ding. Moment of truth, Great Aunt Lily announces, lifting the steamer lid with ceremonial dignity. The dumpling that emerges is exactly the same size as when it went in, but somehow it looks more complete, more perfect, like it contains the essence of every good dumpling that has ever been made. Try it, I urge Lily, even though she can't hear me. She picks up the dumpling with chopsticks, blows on it gently even though it doesn't seem to be steaming, and takes a careful bite. Her expression transforms. It's like watching someone taste the concept of happiness for the first time. She starts, then stops, unable to find words. Eternal. Great Aunt Lily finishes with satisfaction. It tastes like every perfect meal you've ever had and every perfect meal you've ever hoped to have. And it will never get cold, never get stale. Taste it again in an hour. Taste it again tomorrow. It will always be exactly as perfect as it is right now. Lily carefully wraps the remaining half of the dumpling in a cloth napkin. So now I can pass the second trial? You can win the second trial. There's a difference. Before anyone can ask what that difference might be, there's a tremendous crash from somewhere below us, followed by what sounds like a small explosion and someone shouting about FDA violations. That would be my cue, Great Aunt Lily announces cheerfully. Time for the dramatic sacrifice scene. What exactly is your plan? Lily asks, as Great Aunt Lily begins pulling various items from hidden compartments around the apartment. Simple. Tommy Chen wants the eternal dumpling recipe, yes? So I'll give him a choice. Back down from the trials, or watch me destroy the only existing copy of the complete recipe in a dramatic and irreversible way. But won't that make it impossible for future generations to learn? Great Aunt Lily taps her temple with one finger. The real recipe isn't written down, child. It's in here. And now it's in your heart, too. The written version is just for backup and intimidation purposes. She produces what appears to be an ancient scroll wrapped in silk, along with several small explosive devices that I really hope are just for show. Besides, I'm not actually going to destroy it. I'm just going to make everyone think I did, then disappear in a cloud of flour and theatrical smoke. And then what? Then I relocate to my backup apartment in Vancouver, where I'll continue running the dumpling laboratory under a new identity while pretending to be dead. Very peaceful, very productive. The crashing sounds are getting closer, accompanied by what sounds like multiple people arguing in at least 3 different languages. They're coming up the stairs. I report from my position near the window. Tommy Chen, his associates, and what appears to be several actual FBI agents. Also, Mei Lin is floating behind them looking smug, which is never a good sign. FBI? Lily squeaks. Occupational hazard, Great Aunt Lily says dismissively, while rigging what appears to be a small explosive device to the scroll. I've been dealing with federal food inspectors for 40 years. They're persistent but not particularly creative. The apartment door suddenly opens, not because anyone broke it down, but because it's apparently equipped with some kind of automatic unlocking system that responds to specific voice patterns. Grandmother Lily, Tommy Chen calls out in a tone of false respect. We need to talk. We need to nothing, Great Aunt Lily responds, positioning herself dramatically in the center of the kitchen with the rigged scroll in her hands. You need to leave my family alone. Tommy enters, followed by his associates, 3 confused-looking FBI agents and the translucent form of Mei Lin, who looks like she's enjoying the drama immensely. I'm Agent Morrison, FBI Food Safety Division, announces one of the agents, Ma'am, we have a warrant to search these premises for evidence of an unlicensed food laboratory. Excellent timing, Great Aunt Lily announces. You're about to witness the destruction of the most dangerous recipe in culinary history. She holds up the scroll, which is now smoking slightly in a way that suggests the explosive device is armed and ready. You're bluffing, Tommy says, but his voice wavers slightly. Am I? Great Aunt Lily's eyes glint with a kind of manic determination that suggests she's absolutely not bluffing. This scroll contains the complete recipe for the eternal dumpling, along with 17 other legendary dishes that could revolutionize the food industry. In 30 seconds, it will be nothing but ash and regret. Ma'am, Agent Morrison interjects, destroying evidence during a federal investigation is a serious crime. So is running an unlicensed dumpling laboratory for 40 years, but I've been having fun with it. Wait, Tommy shouts desperately. I'll withdraw from the trials. I'll leave your family alone. Just don't destroy the recipe. Too late for negotiations. I've already started the timer. The scroll is now smoking dramatically, filling the kitchen with theatrical haze that smells suspiciously like jasmine and five-spice powder. But Great Aunt Lily continues with perfect dramatic timing. I might be willing to make a deal. What kind of deal? The trials continue, but with new rules. Lily faces the remaining challenges, but if she succeeds, your family agrees to end the food wars permanently. No more revenge plots, no more sabotage, no more stealing recipes or customers. And if she fails? Then the cookbook becomes neutral territory. No one controls it, but everyone can learn from it. Tommy considers this, glancing between the smoking scroll and Lily's determined expression. I want one more condition, he says finally. I get to choose the final trial. Absolutely not. Then I don't accept the deal. Great Aunt Lily looks at the scroll, which is now smoking so dramatically that I'm starting to worry she might have actually armed a real explosive device. Fine. You choose the final trial, but I choose the location. Deal. She immediately tosses the scroll into a large wok filled with what appears to be oil, where it disappears in a burst of flame and smoke, so theatrical that I'm certain she's been planning this dramatic gesture for years. There, she announces with satisfaction. The recipe is destroyed. You just agreed to let the trials continue, Tommy protests. I destroyed the written version. The real recipe lives on in the people who learned it properly. She winks at Lily. Which is how recipes are supposed to be passed down anyway. Agent Morrison looks around the smoke-filled kitchen with the expression of someone who's beginning to suspect his job is more complicated than the training manual suggested. Ma'am, we still need to process you for the unlicensed food laboratory charges. Of course you do, but first you should probably evacuate the building. Why? Because in approximately 90 seconds, the backup timer is going to activate the apartment's self-destruct sequence. It's designed to remove all evidence of my culinary experiments. Everyone stares at her. You're joking, Tommy says weakly. I never joke about explosives or dumplings. As if summoned by her words, a new alarm begins beeping somewhere in the walls. An automated voice announces, self-destruct sequence initiated. All personnel evacuate immediately. This is not a drill. Prayed now, Great Aunt Lily announces cheerfully, grabbing a pre-packed suitcase that suggests this exit strategy has been planned for some time. Lily, grab the cookbook and follow me. Everyone else, I suggest you run. Prayed. What follows is the most chaotic evacuation in the history of federal investigations. Tommy and his associates flee down the stairs. The FBI agents radio for backup while running. And Great Aunt Lily leads us up to the roof via a hidden staircase I hadn't noticed before. Is the building actually going to explode? Lily asks as we climb. Prayed. Only the apartment, and only the parts with evidence. The explosion will be contained and mostly just for show. Mostly? I'm an artist, not an engineer. There's always a margin for error. We emerge onto the roof just as the apartment below us erupts in a controlled explosion that sends smoke and what appears to be glitter billowing out of the windows. Glitter? Lily asks. Dramatic effect. Also, it makes everything harder to clean up, which delays forensic investigation. You've really thought this through. 40 years of practice, darling. From our vantage point on the roof, we can see Tommy Chen and the FBI agent standing in the street below, looking up at the sparkling smoke with expressions of confusion and professional frustration. So what happens now? Lily asks. Now we go to my backup apartment. Prepare for the final trial, and I teach you the most important lesson in the family business, which is how to disappear completely while leaving everyone convinced you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Great Aunt Lily leads us to what appears to be a zip line stretching between buildings, because apparently every member of my family has been preparing for action movie scenarios their entire lives. Is this safe? Lily asks. Examining the harness, Great Aunt Lily hands her. Define safe. It's safer than staying here while Tommy Chen plots his revenge and the FBI tries to figure out why my apartment just exploded into sparkles. As we zipline across the gap between buildings, because this is apparently my granddaughter's life now, I float alongside them, marveling at how normal this feels compared to everything else that's happened in the past 2 days. Nai, Lily calls over the wind. Are you proud of me? Prouder than I've ever been. I call back, though she can't hear me over the rushing air and distant sirens. You're handling this better than any of us expected. What did you say? Great Aunt Lily shouts. She asked if I'm proud of her. Tell her she's doing excellently, but the real challenges haven't started yet. As we land on the opposite roof and make our way to what I can only assume is Great Aunt Lily's backup spy apartment, I realize that my granddaughter has officially entered the family business. And despite all the chaos, explosions, fake deaths, and federal investigations, I couldn't be happier about it. Some traditions are worth preserving, even if they involve zip lines and dramatic exits.